Please give a huge and very warm Liverpool welcome to the fabulous Melanie. Is it great to be here in Liverpool?
It's quite surreal. It's so strange for me because obviously usually when I come here, I'm here for a little while. But today I've arrived from Edinburgh and I have to go to London straight away. So it's like, I feel a bit sad.
Are there family members here?
Have I got any family members in? Yeah, that's just Spice Girls fans. We have family. No, actually, my mum's in London because she's looking after Scarlett.
Okay. What's it like waking up being a Spice Girl?
It's fucking ace. Do you know, you've read the book. Hopefully all these lovely people are going to soon read the book. And there's been many, many twists and turns. But I do wake up on a regular basis and go, I'm a fucking Spice Girl.
Yeah, are you once a Spice Girl, always a Spice Girl then? Yeah.
Definitely. I think there's maybe been times when I've wished I wasn't a Spice Girl. But they've been quite, small times in my life. And now more than ever, I'm so proud and I embrace it fully.
I always wonder if there could ever be a replacement Spice Girl.
Who do you think we are, the Sugar Babes?
Would that never happen?
No, oh my gosh, you just couldn't, could you? You couldn't. I think it should be made law. It's not allowed.
I don't think it ever will. Why was now the right time to write the book, Melanie?
That's a good question. I've had so many wobbles writing this book, and even as, recently as last week, which is a bit late now, obviously, but, I went through my career thinking, there's probably a lot of people in this room who actually know me quite well, and you will know there's certain things I don't like about celebrity, and one of the things I don't like is milking it. I've never wanted to be one of those people who releases your autobiography when you're 25, because I just think, seriously, what have you done? But to be fair, I've done quite a lot by the time I was 25. But no, do you know what? I wasn't ready. It wasn't the right thing for me. And there was a couple of events that brought me to the decision it probably was the right time. And I met a great publisher that I really trusted. And I realised that an autobiography didn't have to be about settling scores and being salacious and scandalous. It could be whatever I wanted it to be. And I wanted it to be interesting, I wanted it to be entertaining, but I also wanted it to be a little bit of a self-help book. I have been through quite a lot of shit, and I wanted to maybe help people who've had any experience similar to mine.
Which we'll get to in a bit. You were born less than 10 miles from here, weren't you, in Wiston?
Yes, Wiston Hospital. Yeah. Wiston!
You start the book by saying it's the story about who I am and how I became who I am, and most importantly, it's about how I decided who I am, rather than allowing other people to define me. Well, you've touched on that in what you've just said. And as I say, we'll come to more on that in a while. Tell me about your childhood. What was it like growing up here?
So it was, obviously, everybody's childhood is their normal, isn't it? And I always felt like it's kind of normal. And then I got to a certain age and realised that my life is quite different to a lot of my friends. And one of those things was being the child of divorced parents, which now is really, really common. But actually, my closest friends, their parents are still together, which is, it's unusual these days. So that always made me feel a little bit different. And we'd moved about a lot as a kid. I was born in Wiston Hospital. I spent the first few years of my life in Rainhill, which obviously is just around the corner from the Aussie. And then when my mum and dad separated and divorced, we ended up in Runcorn. I became a Plazzy Scouser. which is never a good thing. But yeah, it was a huge change. You know, I'd gone from a very stable home life to something quite different.
And it hit you quite hard, didn't it?
It really did, and I don't think I really realised until I was an adult. You know, when you look back. And I think as well, because, you know, doing the things I've done and having some of the experiences I've had quite a lot of therapy. And that really gets you examining your childhood and recognising patterns and why your behaviour is the way that it is. And, you know, a lot of it really does stem back to those childhood years.
You got nosebleeds, didn't you? Which I think later, as you say, you identified as perhaps being a part of what would have been a trauma.
Yeah, you know, it was just weird. It kind of coincided with a time where my mum and my dad had split. I'd lived with my grandparents for a little while, and then me and my mum, we went off to live in Runcorn, and you know, my mum was then in another relationship, so there was this new man in my life who wasn't my dad, and he's also a musician because my mum's a singer as well. And you know, obviously a lot of their work would be away or evenings, and I was often with babysitters or family members, and there was one particular job they had where it was taking them away for a longer period of time, and my mum had found a childminder to look after me, but you know, unbeknownst to my mum, she wasn't really looking after me, and yeah, I think I was quite neglected at one point, and I never spoke up, you know, I never told my mum. My poor mum didn't realise this for weeks and potentially months. And yeah, I think after a lot of this upheaval, these nosebleeds began, which is weird.
You did fun stuff though too, didn't you? There was fun.
So much fun. I had a really happy childhood, you know, because it's weird, because you examine it and you go, oh, you know, that made me, you know, that gave me that part of my personality which I need to work on, or, you know, it's made me, you look at the negative things. But my childhood was amazing. So, you know, I have incredible friends, some of which are here. And I have passion, you know. I loved performing from a really early age, and that just, you know, was my driver through school. I wasn't really academic, I just kind of got on with it, but I loved my sport, obviously. And, you know, and Liverpool is a great city, and I have so much family that still live here, in and around Liverpool, and I just feel so excited whenever I come here, when I see the Liver buildings, you know, it's like my heart just starts beating so fast.
Were you a shy kid?
There's definitely a shyness in me. Yeah, it's weird, and I think as a performer, I think lots of performers talk about that. You know, you're on stage and you're invincible and you're full of confidence, but in some social situations or just everyday life situations, I can feel quite shy.
So does that mean you think it might have two different personas?
Yeah, you know, I think all of us are not just one thing, are we? You know, and I think that's what can be confusing when you're growing up, because you're like, well, am I this or am I that? And it's like, well, you're both. You're all the things.
You were always very focused, weren't you, even as a kid, and virtually obsessed with performing in different ways, mainly dance, but gymnastics too.
Yeah, I did my little stint in gymnastics. I was never that good. I mean, everyone's seen the backflips.
I was hoping you might come on doing one tonight.
Nah, I don't know if my back can take it anymore. But yeah, I just, you know what, the thing for me when I think back to all the things I did, I was just so active. You know, we never stopped. We always doing something, whether it was after school sport or whatever the, you know, school performance was going to be, or down at dance classes. And, you know, it's incredible, and I'm kind of pretty much the same, but I just get more tired.
When do you think you started to think about doing it for a living?
There was a moment, something I talk about in the book. I think Live Aid was 1986. Was it 85? 85 or 86? 85. And there was an artist that I'd been really drawn to when I was listening to her tapes in my bedroom. Show me age, aren't I? And when I saw her on stage for the first time and saw her performing live with a band, it just kind of struck me, that's what I want to do. And that was Madonna. So yeah, that was... Yeah.
And
I'll take that. I'm not Madonna, I don't care.
Massive Freddie Mercury fan too, aren't you?
Yes. So Live Aid was incredible, and it was like seeing artists like that. You know, obviously Freddie's performance at Live Aid, you know, has gone on record, I think, as probably being one of the best performances of all time. I think most people would agree with that, unless you're really crazy.
Or a massive Spice Girls fan.
A massive, yeah. But you know, Freddie was king, and I just have always been drawn to singers and performers who are very physical in what they do.
So that was like an epiphany, that Live Aid moment. Fast forward a little bit to finishing school and going to Performing Arts College.
Mm-hmm.
You went to Doreen Bird, which was a long way from home. What was that like? That was in Sidcup.
Yeah, so with my mates who are here tonight, a couple of them, we were old dancing buddies. And, you know, that was our dream, to leave school and continue to dance, because that was our absolute passion. And I didn't have a plan B. You know, that was it. That's what I had to do. And I was lucky enough to get into this college, it was really competitive. You know, it's tough to get into these schools, and even financially, I was fortunate in that I was able to get a grant because of my situation at home. So I went off to Sidcup, Kent, which is quite far away from here.
Do you remember day one?
I remember going to look at my digs. And I was in a house, there was 7 girls in a house. I went really Scousland, didn't I? There were 7 girls in a house with a family of 4. It was a pretty big house, but my bedroom was a dining room with 2 other girls. There was like 3 single beds, like literally like a jigsaw puzzle put together. But we didn't care, because we were embarking on this really exciting new chapter of our lives.
That was 1994, yeah?
No, that was 1990.
1990,
yeah.
Okay.
Don't age me.
Well, so much happened so quickly, didn't it, at that point. And then you saw an advert, right, after doing all of the auditions and not going particularly well. Mm-hmm. There was an advert in the stage. Is it true or not?
No, it's true. I think what's really interesting is, you know, obviously being from the north, and you know, along with my friends, we were really good at what we did. You know, we did the local competitions. We often got medals and trophies, and then you go to London and you're with like all of these kids from all over the country who have been the ones winning the medals and trophies, and you're like, shit, I'm not one of the best anymore. But I was always super ambitious. And I worked hard through college, but I also discovered the pub and raving. So, you know, it was those years. And when I went out into the world and started auditioning, I just imagined things would happen quicker. But, you know, everything happens for a reason. And, you know, thankfully, I was out of work. You know, I was struggling. I was a struggling theatre artist when I was handed a flyer for an audition for a girl band.
An amazing moment. What do you remember about the audition?
I remember, I mean, you're quite prepared for auditions when you've been through that whole process of being a dancer in college and going out into that world. But, you know, this was the big one, because my ultimate dream was to work in pop music. You know, that's really what I wanted to do. Theatre was like my second choice, which, I mean, it's really, really hard to work in theatre too. But I was given this opportunity. I went to the audition. It was at a place called Danceworks, which is near Selfridges on Oxford Street, just around the corner. And there was hundreds of girls all the way up the stairs. And yeah, we went in, we had to dance to Stay by Eternal. Do you remember that? Tune. And we had to freestyle. And I hate freestyle. It's really embarrassing.
Isn't that what you did a lot of?
I freestyle a lot now. Like when I'm on stage, I hate to be choreographed. I like to be free.
Yeah.
But you know, it's, you know, back in like the 70s, or I would say the 70s, or maybe the 70s, but in the 80s, and a lot of the world of dance now, it's, you know, I did modern and tap, and not so much tap, but ballet and lots of other interesting forms of dance. And so to do some like street dance freestyling wasn't really my forte. But I got through anyway, so I did okay.
Worked out.
I did okay, and then I got to sing, yeah.
And you met the other girls quite quickly after that?
Yeah, so on that day, Victoria was there, and Melby was there, but I didn't meet them. And then, yeah, few little twists and turns. We won't spoil the book. No spoilers here. But yeah, eventually, I met Jerry and the other nutters.
And Michelle.
And Michelle, yeah, remember Michelle? No.
There's some great stories. For those of you that have already read the book, you'll know that there are some great stories about Michelle. In a lovely, endearing way, you write about her. But she just wasn't into it, was she?
I think the thing was, like, the other four of us were so single-minded.
Yeah.
We really shared this vision and we were so ambitious. And there was no doubt in our minds, we knew exactly what we wanted to do, but Michelle wasn't sure, and that was Michelle's downfall.
How long did you know Michelle for?
I think it was probably a few months. It's funny, isn't it? Because when you're a kid, like, a year is an eternity, isn't it? And then when you're an adult, a year is like a week.
Yeah. And you were all in a house together. Michelle was in the house for a while, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
She shared a room with Victoria.
Right.
We put the posh ones together.
And you shared with Mel B.
I shared with Mel, but we put the Northerners together, yeah. And then Jerry had a room because no one wants to share with Jerry.
Is it even worth asking who was in charge in your room?
No, I mean, it's in the book, isn't it? I think I had a single bed and she had a double bed, which kind of, that's what the landscape was like in that relationship.
That was on day one, that's my bed, wasn't it? I think you say in the book. And then Emma came along.
Yeah, and changed everything.
Yeah.
And that was it. She was like the final piece of the jigsaw. And then this dynamic shift happened, and we just knew that something really exciting was going to happen.
Were you working mega hard already?
Yeah, we were. We were really disciplined, actually. I'm quite proud of us because, cut to today, I mean, even there's probably, lots of you here that have seen documentaries over the years. There's a little bit of laziness with certain members of the band. I'm definitely the one who cracks the whip. But back in the beginning, in the very early days, we rehearsed really hard.
More seriously, your appearance was starting to become more and more important, wasn't it? From a management point of view.
Yeah.
How aware were you of that at the time? And do you remember having any kind of anxiety about that?
It was so weird to me because being at dance college, it's very focused on the way that you look. You spend all day looking in a mirror, and there was a lot of body shaming that went on. And you would be humiliated in front of your classmates if a teacher thought you needed to lose a few pounds. And that was the world of dance at the time, I believe, like other worlds. That's changing. But back then, that was very acceptable, to be treated like that. And I was close to people, some of my closest friends did have unhealthy relationships with food, but it wasn't something that had affected me. I didn't even, I felt like I had a healthy attitude in that if I'd been away for the summer and put on a few pounds, I'd just not eat so much for me dinner, it was kind of, it felt normal.
But you were starting to be told that you needed to look good.
Yeah, I think it was just a bit of a throwaway comment and probably someone thinking they were being funny. And it was the financial backer of the band at the time, a guy called Chick. And I did a backflip and he said, oh, fucking hell, I don't know, you can do a backflip with thighs like that. And it just stuck with me and it kind of made me start to question if I looked the right way to achieve the things that were so important to me.
Actually, what he said to you, I think probably did stick with you subconsciously from that point on.
Yeah.
The fact that you just quoted him so quickly there.
Yeah.
And in a purely negative way as you got older.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think we don't really realise how powerful our words can be. And I'm sure it was never his intention.
No.
He never would have realised how damaging that was.
Good times though, because as I said earlier, everything escalated so quickly. It may not have felt like it at the time, and I sense in the book there was such a frustration to get out there and start performing and get famous.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were ready. We were like, come on, let us go. The world needs this band. We weren't the Spice Girls yet, but the world needs this band. And our original management that we'd auditioned for, they were like, you're not ready. Come on, girls, don't get ahead of yourselves. But that was kind of to their detriment because we just thought, screw them, what do they know?
Or do you think in hindsight that maybe holding you back as much as they did made you better for the next day?
I'm absolutely sure, yeah. I mean, everything with Spice Girls, it's like the stars have to be in alignment for anything to happen. And, you know, all of that time, I mean, I don't even know how long it was, maybe about a year or so, we were working on becoming a band, you know, figuring out who we were, what we wanted to say. And then once we had everything we needed, we decided to leave and go our own way.
Fully armed.
Yeah.
You
demo
say,
tape.
say what you want about the Spice Girls, but we were ambitious, driven, and prepared to go all out to make our dreams come true. Did you ever doubt yourselves?
Never. It wasn't allowed. And I think that was kind of like an unspoken rule between us. And, you know, part of me really believes that one of the reasons why we did succeed was because we never had any doubt. We were just like, this is what we're going to achieve, and this is how we're going to do it.
Did you not even have any doubt when Simon Cowell turned you down?
But no one knew who he was then, so, you know, we were like, yeah, what does he know? What does that fella know? He'll never amount to anything.
Why do you think he did turn you down?
Because he's a knob. No, but actually, to be honest with you, you know, at the time, so he was he at RCA? Let's see, I'm forgetting all the facts now. I'm asking you, was it RCA?
Was he BMG?
Was it BMG? It was BMG. BMG and RCA joined forces at one point, didn't they? I'm getting...
You signed to Virgin in the
We signed to Virgin, but wherever Carl was at the time, he had artists like Robson and Jerome and Zig and Zag. Is that what they were called? Do you remember Zig and Zag? And, you know, we went in, these girls, all, you know, full of bluster, saying, we want to do this, we want to write our own songs, we've got a message, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, fuck this, I can't tell them what to do.
When you were going around all these management companies and record labels, there's a line that you used several times in the book, that you were always stinking of hairspray and ciggies. What a good look.
Highly flammable. Yeah, I know. I mean, I've never been a smoker. Well, maybe 2 weeks when I was on holiday when I was 16. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah, there was a few smokers in the band, and that was, yeah, it was funny then, because you could smoke everywhere, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And that's mad to think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird when you see someone smoking there.
Yeah, they're the weird ones. Sorry, any smokers, but you're weird.
How quickly after getting signed did you do a first big show?
Like a big full-length headline show.
Yeah, before Wannabe.
Before Wannabe. I mean, flipping heck, it took us ages. It took us, well, until the second album was out, until we did a proper, you know, full-length show.
Yeah, I mean, there was
like a telly or something.
Yeah, I think a show that normal people would think was a big show.
What do you mean
not
normal?
A stadium.
Not normal.
You did do a lot of live stuff before releasing anything, though, didn't you?
Did we?
Didn't you?
Did we?
Well, you would know.
I don't know. What are you ranking for? Help me out. What's the name? G-A-Y. Did we do G-A-Y? Did we? I'm trying to think. I mean, it's a long time ago. A lot's happened. Yeah, so before Wannabe was released, in all honesty, I can't remember.
I'm surprised. I mean, you were a kid.
Yeah.
Weren't you? You were all kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny, innit? Because, like, Wannabe came out in July 96, so I was 22. And Emma was still a teenager. I think she was 19. So, madly, at that age, you think you're all grown up, don't you? But you're really not.
It was a brilliant time, wasn't it? The mid-90s, there was that feel-good, Cool Britannia thing going on. 1996, the Brits at Earl's Court, that was one of the big moments at the start of that year for you.
Yeah, it was. So the Brits 96 was the Brits when not many people not many people knew who the Spice Girls were. And we were signed at that point because we were invited guests of Virgin Records, and we were sitting with Lenny Kravitz, as you do. Yeah, that was a really, really fun night, and we had a few bevies, and then I told Victoria to fuck off.
So it could have been the end of things for you.
Yeah, it could. I mean, I say it in a light-hearted way now, but actually it's not funny. I mean, it is, isn't it? It is. No, it's not funny. So we'd all had a few bevies that night, and when we were leaving, there was a little altercation, which to me was nothing. I mean, you know, I grew up round here, you know, not far from here. I'm a girl from the northwest, so telling someone to fuck off under your breath is nothing. But I think it was more to do with, you know, certain members of the band. She was upset, and they felt like that behaviour was, you know, potentially damaging to the band. So I was told in no uncertain terms that if I ever behaved like that again, I'd be out. But who'd sing all the hard bits? That's what I'm on about.
That led on to the summer of '96. How brilliant was the summer of 1996? Incredible, wasn't it?
I don't think any of these were born. They look too young to me.
For those of you that were there, it was the summer of Wannabe, wasn't it? Yeah. The best, absolutely. What did it feel like then? You said earlier what it's like waking up being a Spice Girl. What did it feel like then being a Spice Girl?
It was incredibly exciting, but we were on this mission, and we were like, yeah, of course this is happening. This was the plan. And the madness started pretty much immediately. I think we went in at midweek number 6, in at number 3. And then we went off to Japan to start promoting the album. And it went to number 1 here. And then by the time we come back, it was nuts, because I think we'd been number 1 for 2 weeks by then. So lots of people knew who we were. So life had changed forever.
Yeah. Did it feel like overnight success?
It never really did, because we felt like we'd worked really hard to get to that point. Yeah. And, you know, because we were so young, those 2 years of development for us felt like forever. You
talk about the making of the video in the book, and you talk about it really fondly. Can you just go through what that was like?
It was so fun, because, like, you know, imagine you're sitting in your bedroom as a child, as a teenager, and your ultimate dream is to be a pop star, and, you know, fast forward to 1996, and you're making a video, you know, you're shooting a video, and yeah, it was just so exciting. And I think what was so wonderful about the video, and I think the reason it really captured the hearts and imagination of so many people, is because it was truly the essence of the band. You know, we used to go into record labels and publishers, and we would behave like that. We would cause chaos, you know, and dance, and I'd do backflips on tables, and, you know, me and Mel be rollerbladed into somewhere. We were really bad at it, it was very hazardous. But yeah, it was chaos wherever we went, and people just fell in love with it.
The Christmas lights, that was another moment that year.
Yeah, so that was the first time, actually, it was an event, and we were the only artists that were there, because that year, so far, we'd only done like road shows and stuff, and there'd always been other artists there, so it was like, we could kind of blame other people, like Backstreet Boys or whoever. Oh, they've come to see them, it's not us. Actually, were Backstreet Boys out then? They were a bit later, maybe. But who was out then? Can we remember?
1996.
And where are they now? That's what I want to ask you.
Well, actually, it was a big indie scene, wasn't it? That you were quite into, weren't you?
Yeah, I love that indie music. Actually, our Ali, who's in tonight, yeah, I think it was actually probably through Alison. She's got great music taste, which we've shared through growing up. And yeah, I was really introduced to that scene, because, you know, it was all kicking off up here, or maybe a little bit further in Manchester. Don't mention Manchester, remember.
Well, you went on stage with Blossoms this summer, so...
I did, I love Blossoms.
Yeah. That was a moment.
Where did I do that?
At Glastonbury! I was going to save that question for later, but you brought Glastonbury up. Would Victoria play with you if you did Glastonbury?
I think she would. Yeah. I think she loves Glastonbury. She was telling me all about Glasgow, because actually this year was my first Glasgow, bizarrely. And yeah, but a couple of years ago I was talking to Victoria after she went. Well, it's a bit more than that now, isn't it? But yeah, she was going, it's amazing. There's, you know, because I've been to other festivals, and she was like, you know.
I'd have put you down more as a Coachella girl.
Who's a Coachella girl? Victoria?
More Coachella than Glastonbury.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Coachella's weird, isn't it?
Well, you know, at least it's sunny, and it's.
Has anybody been to Coachella
here?
Yeah.
It's not a mud bath.
It's really weird, isn't it? Yeah. You can't even have a drink properly. You can't get drunk. because you have to go over there to drink and it's too far, you can't be arsed.
Forget
And then
it.
you've got to walk back twice, it's really weird.
Glastonbury it is. So at this time, that's this mega year, this extraordinary year, where we were all a part of it. Those of us that remember 1996, it was the best of times, and I think I'm going to say it feels just a bit kind of goosebumpy to be in the same space as one of the Spice Girls for a better 1996. And everyone's favourite Spice Girl, by the way, yeah?
He's getting really well paid for this interview.
Relationships at this time, were they being discouraged?
What, relationships with other people, like boyfriends and stuff?
Were you being told not to have a boyfriend because then you were more attainable for fans?
No, actually, that wasn't the thing. It was kind of a little bit more underhanded than that. There was different rules for different people in the band. All of this is covered in the book, which is going to be on my fucking gravestone after this book talk. In the book. It says in the book.
Which is on sale in the foyer.
I just don't want to feel like I'm repeating myself, but I'm not, because you've not read it, so that's repeating itself. Does that make sense?
Sort of.
What were we talking about? Oh, so fellas and that. So, anyway, different rules for different people, and I think the issues we had were what happened with the Spice Girls was pretty much unprecedented. So everybody around us and everybody involved was, I suppose we were kind of firefighting. Everyone was doing what they felt was the best thing to do. And the management style that we had with Simon Fuller at 19 was, to try and protect the band and the members within the band. He would allow certain people to do certain things, to have a relationship, and other people it was advised probably a good idea that you don't. And that was the advice that was given to me.
Apart from David?
David? Oh, what, with Victoria? Who's David?
I mean, he became a mate of yours, didn't he? Very quickly.
Yeah, of sorts. I'm friends with somebody who played for Man United. They're ridiculous. No, I think David and I, we have an interesting friendship because we're both quite shy, and when you get two shy people together, it's really awkward. But we shared quiet moments.
I think even by then there was talk in the press about whether you were gay or not. Did you read about that yourself at the time?
The awful thing is, at that time, thankfully we didn't have social media, but we were all obsessed with what was being written. We knew it was an unhealthy obsession and probably best to not read it, but and it still happens now, it's so funny, because if you choose not to read it, someone else is going to tell you about it anyway. Oh, did you see what they said? No, but I know now, thanks. Those rumours began, and I found it, amusing, annoying. There was lots of emotion around that.
Mm-hmm. And looking back, you're a brilliant advocate for anyone LGBTQ+. Yeah.
All those letters in any order.
You've been amazing though. The years that have gone by, you've done more and more.
Yeah, I think what happened in the early days of the Spice Girls, we were told that girl bands wouldn't sell, girl pop bands wouldn't sell. It's all about boys, and we had a point to prove, and we went out to be a girl band for girls, but we had a lot of fans that were in there, LGBTQI+ community. Just take it slow. And I always get it wrong. We started to notice that quite quickly, and we realised it was really about equality and individuality and celebrating that. And that's my favourite thing about the Spice Girls, because we're all so different, but when we come together, we're really powerful. So that's what I love about the fan base of the Spice Girls, because we are unified, and that's what we felt at those shows in 2019.
I remember I was in Manchester, on the day you were playing at the Etihad, and my God, the whole city was taken over with Spice Girls.
Yeah, they were like national holidays, weren't they? It was amazing, I loved it. And they were also like the biggest hen do and Pride put together.
Yeah. Back to the 90s, and the reason we need to focus in so much on the 90s is that all of this happened over the course of just a couple of years. From releasing Wannabe to Jerry leaving was, what, just 2 and a bit years?
No, it wasn't even 2 years. So Wannabe came out in the July of 96 and she left in the spring, I think, of 98.
Why did she leave?
Why did she leave? I don't know, bitch, ask her. Here's another work, get me phone. No, you know what? My true thoughts and feelings about her leaving are, we were burnt out. You know, we were knackered. And I go into it in more detail. But you know, it was hard. We were all dealing with so much. And we were together. But I think because we had our own personal demons and ways of dealing with everything that had happened to us, we were under so much pressure and exhausted that for her it just come to this point where she couldn't carry on in that environment.
How hard was it for you by now, at this stage?
Yeah, well, we were on tour, so, you know, I, at this point, had issues that I wasn't addressing. I was probably in denial. There was a tiny little voice telling me I couldn't carry on this way, but then there was a much bigger voice telling me I had no choice. But I was getting up on stage, you know, most nights, and that kind of, that's where I love to be. So being on tour is my favourite thing.
How did you carry on? Because you had an eating disorder and were diagnosed with depression, weren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that wasn't until 2000. So I'd gone through the real Spice Mania period, just becoming more and more ill.
But pushing through? Pushing
through, yeah. I mean, it's incredible what we can do and what adrenaline can help you achieve, but there is a huge price to pay.
So 2000, you went to LA, didn't you, which is a kind of happy place for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you got on well there, didn't you?
Things were great. I think it was 99 when I spent most of my time there working, writing and recording Northern Star, my first album.
A brilliant album. Yeah. I listened to that again this week, 20 years on, and it still stands up as a beautifully made album.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, there were lots of people, I'm not going, yeah, I'm fucking great. Well, I am great. But there are amazing people involved in that album. I mean, it's coming out of something as successful as the Spice Girls, you literally have your pick of the world's greatest talent at that time. And I was, you know, I was like a kid in a candy store. It was incredible.
And it was a huge success.
It really was.
Which never happens when someone leaves a group.
Especially females.
Yeah.
You know, it's harder for women. Robbie, we won't mention his name. But you know, it's unusual, I think, for any solo artist coming out of a band to have huge success. You know, there are exceptions like Robbie, like Harry. You know, Harry Styles is killing it and is incredible. But yeah, it is incredibly hard. And that album did good. And it took a bit of time though. My third single, Never Be the Same Again, with Lisa Left-Eye Lopez, was my first UK #1, and from that moment it really began to fly.
Since you mentioned Robbie, how long were you together for?
5 minutes.
You still mates now?
I wouldn't say we're mates. Do you know what? I've not seen him for years. It's so funny, right? So on Sunday, I was doing this Radio 2 gig up in Leeds, and he was playing, he was headlining, and I was there, and Mark Owen's there as well. It was like so bizarre. And I was like, oh, fucking hell, the book's out that week. And I was going to go, you might want to read page. But anyway, it's been cancelled, so that's all right. But no, I've not seen him for years, and I've seen him since those days, and I don't have any bad feeling towards him. Very well documented the problems and issues that he had. You know, a lot of the people that I became friends with, or even some of the people I had relationships with, we were in this crazy world and trying to figure shit out and doing a really bad job of it.
So how and why did it start to unravel for you after Northern Star? I
think I feel very grateful that my body took over my mind, because I had lived in such an unhealthy way for such a long time that I just couldn't continue anymore. You know, my body was starved of nutrition, I was exhausted. I mean, my adrenals must have been like just, in a mess. And I developed another eating disorder, which is binge eating disorder. And from having every control over whatever I put in my mouth, to how much I worked out and went to the gym, I had no control over my actions. And I literally would find myself like mid-binge, and that was terrifying to have just no control.
What would you say to any young person here tonight, hearing you say that, and you didn't act instantly on what you were experiencing? What would you say to them?
I would say I waited a really, really long time to admit to myself, to admit to anybody else, that what I was doing wasn't right and wasn't healthy and couldn't continue. And it took me such a long time to get better. I really hit rock bottom, which is what a lot of people have to do to get better. But I would say if you've got any concerns, any doubts, whether it's about you or a family member, talk about it, And we do talk more now. We are better as a society about talking about mental health issues. I used to feel like a burden. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed of all the things I was doing. But there are some great people out there, If you don't feel comfortable speaking to your friends and your family, please go to a professional, go to a charity. There really is. There's so many resources online. There's lots in the book, actually.
There's a
listed lots in the
toolkit,
book.
right? Like a toolkit. There's
a toolkit in the book, but I also talk about charities that I really rate, that are really helpful.
Yes.
There's LGBTQ+, I can't say it either, in there. There's lots of charities, lots of things that are covered in the book. I've given some little guidance if you need to speak to somebody.
There were good times in LA, though, weren't there? There always have been.
Yes.
You got your tattoos in LA, a number of them anyway.
Yeah, I got quite a few of them. It was so funny because with the Spice Girls, my first couple, we just walked into a tattoo shop out on Sunset Boulevard. Like, who would do that? Because now you plan it, don't you? And you get a recommendation and go somewhere fabulous. But yeah, we just walked into some shithole where they were all really high, and my first one was really wonky, but it's endearing.
I want to leave some time for you to ask questions, so we're going to speed through the next.
Is this like a quick fire round?
Well, I have got some quick. Will you do some quick fires then? Look, we'll speed through the fact that Reason followed, didn't it, after Northern Star, and then you got dropped.
We don't call it dropped. We say I was released.
Right.
I was set free. Yeah, I was dropped.
And you set up your own label.
I did. Yeah. Fool.
Yeah. Who would do that? The same person that would buy a football club, right?
Yeah.
Someone who just wants to lose a lot of money very quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you carried on making albums, and the most recent one, Melanie C. Again, I said it about Northern Star. It's a fantastic piece of work.
Thank you.
And you know what? It opens with Who I Am.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like, I don't want to discourage you from buying the book, but it's a bit like the book in 3 minutes.
Oh yeah, totally, absolutely. Well, this is what happened. So I was on stage with the Spice Girls in 2019, stadium shows. Always get the stadium bit in because it's really impressive. And I'm looking out over 70, 80,000 people all losing their shit. Sorry, I'm just showing off now. And so many things fell into place for me. It was like, we really did achieve something incredible. And you can say those words and you can think those thoughts, but it takes something like that for it to sink in. So that happened. I realised that I am Sporty Spice. There's no escaping it. She's there. She ain't going anywhere. And I can be a Spice Girl and a solo artist and a mum and a DJ and all of the things all of the time. And that inspired the record. And Who I Am obviously was the little catalyst for that. And then the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You haven't spent long periods of time back here in Liverpool since you left as a teenager.
It's true, yeah.
I mention that because in the book it's noteworthy because you talk about your relationship with the Sun newspaper and Hillsborough, and you make a big statement in the book.
Yeah. It was on an album, I think it was Version of Me. I was here in Liverpool, when those horrible events occurred. And, I know, being a Liverpool supporter and I think everybody in the city was so affected by that, either very closely or knowing somebody who'd been affected very closely by the events on that day. And I very soon after that, I went away to college. And you have to remember, it was at a time when we didn't have social media. So I admit, in the book, I should have known better, but I was oblivious. And I went into about things with the newspaper, we shall not name, and I went through my life as a Spice Girl, doing many, many interviews with that particular newspaper. Again, oblivious of the feelings. Of course, I knew what the Sun newspaper had done, but I was working in music, and I was talking to, the entertainment person at the newspaper. It's a very different part of the newspaper. Again, and I held my hands up. I'm not going to say, I can't justify that. Unfortunately, nobody around me helped to guide me that wasn't the thing to do. And then fast forward to releasing an album, I believe in 2016, and again, I did an interview with that paper. And, there was a picture of me with a logo behind me, and it ended up on social media. And it was a horrible, horrible time because, of course, so many people were so upset by me doing that. I am a Liverpool supporter. I have supported the families from that day, and it absolutely broke my heart. It became, and I am not the victim in this in any way. I can never say that. But I just kind of explain what happened in the book and make the apology I never really had the opportunity to make at the time. So I just have been able to set the record straight there.
It's a very powerful piece of writing. I'm going to come to you now.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I'm going to ask you if you've got any questions. I'm going to save my quick fires for after those questions. So can we put the house lights up? You're going to have to shout, say your name, okay, and ask your question. First one, here on the front row. Yes.
Hello, how are you?
Hi.
You often say that you look at videos from back in the day that you don't remember being that person, that you don't remember being sporty spice, and sometimes you don't recognise yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering if you could have one moment that you could redo, just one moment that you could go back and do again, what would it be?
The thing that popped into my head, I'd love to get back on stage at the Brits in 1997 and say to Liam Gallagher, come and have a go for Phoebe Hardiman.
There's one here. Tell us who you are as well. Hi, Bianca.
If you could choose a superpower, which superpower would you choose?
Was that?
Superpower?
Yeah, if you had a superpower.
Hey, babes, I've got them. I've got them in spades, and I think all the mums in the house, we are superheroes.
And girl power, of course.
Girl power.
Yeah? One here, yeah. Hi.
How different would your life would be if you did go down the side surgery? What passions would you go down?
That is a good question, because you just don't know, do you? I mean, I was determined to be a performer in whatever way that would have worked out for me. I think I would have continued. I mean, when I auditioned for the band, I was also auditioning for Cats, the musical. So I might have been a cat.
Did you love doing Blood Brothers?
I did. It was hard. It was hard. I did 2 weeks here actually, which was amazing because it was a 6-month run in the West End, and then the tour goes out, but they like to bring somebody in for the Liverpool stint, and it was amazing. It was amazing, but you know what? I pursued a career in theatre, but by doing theatre, I thought, fuck that, it's so hard.
You did Jesus Christ Superstar too, didn't you?
I did, yeah. That was amazing, and that was quite different because we did an arena tour. I hate arenas. But it's alright doing theatre, isn't it? It's in a joke.
It was something we
So, no, because we did Jesus Christ Superstar in an arena setting, it was more like a rock tour, because that's what Andrew... Oh, I'm such a twat when I do that.
Oh.
Andrew Lloyd Webber. You know, like that, David Beckham. Yeah. So when Andrew and Tim Rice wanted to do it in that way, that's how they'd always envisioned it, so that felt quite different.
While you're name dropping, King Charles III's a bit of a fan, right?
Do you know what? I love that. The last time I saw our now king, he was then Prince Charles, I said to him, it was just earlier this year, I did the Prince's Trust Awards, and it was the lineup, and everyone goes all quiet, and you can feel the anxiety in the air. It's really fun. And because he's just a person, he's all right. He's a bit of a laugh, really. And he walked past, and he was asking me what I've been doing and stuff. And I said, I saw Mel B was at the Palace a few weeks ago. The rest of us are just wondering when we're going to get ours.
I mean, you did meet the Queen too.
I did meet the Queen, yeah. God rest her soul. I forget which year it was. I want to say 97 at the Royal Variety, and we did a lineup. And I have performed at other events when she's been up there in the Royal Box. But yeah, that was kind of the ultimate. Yeah, and we always felt like a bit naughty, because obviously what happened with Charles, and we broke protocol, and we always felt like we were a little bit in trouble. I don't think she liked the Spice Girls.
Really great stories in the book about people that you've met, which I'll save for those of you who haven't read it yet. Yes.
Yes, hi. Good evening again. Melanie, congratulations on the book. And I wanted to ask you about a ring, a special ring, back to 90s. Jerry gave you a ring, one of 5.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody still has them. I think they were from, I want to say Ratner's, but I don't think it was. Do you remember Ratner's? I think they were from H. Samuel. That makes me think of like teenage boys and Valentine's Day. H. Samuel.
What was that aftershave jazz? Do you remember that?
Jazz.
That's what we all had.
Curos.
Yeah, Curos.
From the water. Davidoff. Yeah, the rings. So they were, they were quite simple little gold rings that she bought us all. I mean, Jerry's that person. She always buys a gift. She's really thoughtful in that way. And yeah, 1 of 5. And it's on the album, isn't it, Spice? And yeah, we still all have them.
Another question at the back, waving. Hi.
Celia, will you sing for us?
Celia.
Warmed up. What would you like me to sing?
Who I am.
Who do you think I am?
Flipping it, that's the question there.
Are you up for it?
I feel like I'm in Phoenix Nights.
I think you're back in the Northwest. What about a bit of Northern Star?
That seems appropriate. I think my phone's in my bag. Can you just get me it up on Spotify so I can get the key right?
All right. Shall I do my quick fires?
Do your quick fires.
Whilst,
Try Northern Star, and then I'll leave you with a little bit of Northern Star, and hopefully I'll sing it in tune because we've got the key right.
The quick fires start like this. Will you do it all again, as Spice Girls?
Yes.
Will Victoria do it with you?
I hope so. I'll make her.
How much are you seeing of the other girls at the moment?
Not a lot, actually. We're in contact, but we've not seen each other for a little while.
Will there be another movie, a Spice World 2?
You never know.
Was that the best part of your career or the worst?
Do you know, it's one of the things that I'm really, really proud of, because it's like, not many people have done lots of the things the Spice Girls did. But do you know what I mean? It's something that's like, yeah, we had hit singles and the albums did well, but we also had a really big movie.
It's crazy. Has anyone else got a set of Spice Girls dolls? I have them all boxed. I'm hoping that one day I can buy a car with them.
One day they'll be worth something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have you got much of your own merch?
And my mum's got most of it, yeah.
How is your mum?
Yeah, she's good actually.
I guess most of you know who Joan is, yeah? Ever seen her before?
Yeah, some of my mum's friends are here actually, I think.
Are the Spice Girls forever?
Absolutely. You know, the great thing about the Spice Girls, you know, anyone who's been lucky enough to do anything, you know, that is connected with people, is that the Spice Girls will live on longer than we will, you know? Nice, isn't it?
Yeah. How's Scarlett?
Yeah, 13. She's amazing. She's completely and utterly amazing and 13.
Are you helping her with a career into the music industry?
Hell no.
And finally, is there anything left that you still want to achieve?
Do you know, in this little life I've had so far, you know, I have come to realise that, and it's in the book, you know, you can have all the success in the world, or all, you know, the things that people deem to be success, and it truly is, success is happiness. You know, I love what I do. I feel so grateful. I get on stage, I perform, I live out my childhood fantasies, and you know, and that is wonderful. But there's been times I've had all of those things and all of the money and all of the stuff that comes with it, and I've been so unhappy and so afraid. So I think moving forward, I want to still do what I love, but really enjoy it and really be happy.
Awesome. All right, everybody?
This might be, I've not warmed up, and I like to warm up. Okay. They tried to catch a falling star, thinking that she had gone too far. She did but kept it hidden well, until she cracked and then she fell. If all the history is true, she's gonna end up just like you. You made it to the other side, but tell me who will be my guide. They build you up so they can tear you down. Trust the ocean, you'll never drown. Who is next? Who's gonna steal your crown? Thank you.
Buy the book. It's all in the book, okay? The book is Who I Am. Let's hear it one more time. From Melanie.